Before the arenas, before the awards.
This is b4Nashville Live. Have a question for our guest?
Send it to us via Messenger.
Here's your host, George Davis.
And we do want to remind you before we start that, yes, you can send us a message on Facebook. And if you have a question for our guest tonight, then we will be sure to get that to him and he can answer that question. We take the good, the bad, the ugly, and the weird, okay? Maybe not so much the ugly, but the good, the bad, and the weird. How's that? We'll go with that. But we're going to talk to him coming up in 30 seconds and find out what makes him tick. All right, stick around.
Before Nashville is proudly sponsored by Go-Go Tuners, the go-to tuner for professional and amateur musicians. Get your Go-Go Tuner at gogotuners.com. By Heart to Heart Coffee, the coffee that gives back. Find out more at heart2heartcoffee.com. By Sibby's Apparel, worn by heroes, made with respect. Order yours at sibbysapparel.com. And by Three Rangers Whiskey, not for the weak or faint-hearted. ThreeRangers.com.
And definitely want to give a shout out to our spotlight sponsor tonight, Go-Go Tuners. If you're a musician and you're looking for a great tuner, gogotuners.com. Easy to read, whether it's dark, whether you've got the bright lights on you, whatever, it's all right there. So tonight we got a guy joining us, and I'm going to find out everything I can about him for you. And his name is Chase Mitchell, or he goes by Chase if you're looking for him on Spotify. I did find that out because I tried to check out some of his music. So, Chase, how's it going, man?
I'm good, man. Thank y'all so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here, brother.
Hey, I'm excited to have you on. I'm just looking forward to this, and we're going to do another special thing tonight where we've done this once before with putting up the actual music video. And I'm going to try that out again tonight because I think this video is awesome. And I really wanted to show up and let people check it out. But before anything else, tell me a little bit about you. Where do you come from? You know, kind of the background, that kind of thing.
Well, so I live here in Nashville with my wife, my two baby girls. And we've lived here for almost 2 years now. I spent the better part of the pandemic coming back and forth. We lived down in the panhandle of Florida. I was down there working on my dad's farm during the pandemic. Kind of seemed like the right thing to do. No one was really doing anything. The world kind of stood still for a couple of years. So we're like, you know what? Let's head down there. But we're in Nashville now by way of Pensacola, Florida. I was born in Charleston, West Virginia. So huge shout out to Charleston, West Virginia, West by God. That's where I was born. It's where my wife was born, where all of our family resides. So, we're big time John Denver fans, to say the least. That's kind of the long and the short of it.
So being in West Virginia and in Florida, how did the music pop into your life?
That's a good question. So when I was, because there was no one, my pappy whistled all the time. And he would always just tell me that's just because he had the melody in his soul. He was Welsh. Made me remember that all the time. He always reminded, don't forget, you're Welsh now. That's where singing originated. But we didn't really have any musicians in the family or anything like that. When I was 9 years old, though, I had an opportunity to be cast into a boy band way early on in kind of the late 90s during the boy band craze. That's kind of like a whole story in and of itself. I can kind of give you the small version of it if you want. My sister was a competition cheerleader. And at night, whenever she had evening practices, I would notice that this band would rehearse in the gymnasium because they had mirrors all around. And so every now and again, I would kind of beg my mom, like, "Hey, let me stay, and watch these people." I was always entertained by, NSYNC, Michael Jackson, all the theatrics, Elvis. I really appreciated showmanship. And so when I saw them kind of working on a craft like that, I was like, man, I was just drawn to it right away. And that kind of led to meeting the dude, Maurice Starr, who was a big 80s manager who managed that boy band. He was known for New Kids on the Block, Menudo, several others. And it kind of really quickly, music became a part of my life really, really young. I'm super grateful for it because that's where it all started, essentially, all those years ago.
Well, I gotta say, dropping Maurice Starr's name, that's big. I mean, these guys, I mean, he was like the guy back in the 90s. I mean, everybody wanted to be a part of his group.
I even saw him in his general suit a few times, which was a trip. You know, I didn't really know that was a thing at the time because I was just so young. But watching some of these New Kids on the Block documentaries and Menudo documentaries, I was just like, oh, wow, okay. There's more layers to it. But I was always so grateful. He gave me a shot super, super young. And I owe him a lot for doing that.
And what was the name of the band?
Lucky. So the boy band was called Lucky. And we did a lot of stuff in and around Atlanta and the Southeast and East Coast for Radio Disney when they were just kind of, they had the AM station at the time. If you recall, Radio Disney had an AM station, and they were trying to get more viewership or youth viewership. So they started working with a lot of pop groups, and we got really, really lucky early on, pun intended, to be a part of their Peanut Butter and Jams summer series. And so we went on for a couple summers to open up for some really amazing artists like Destiny's Child, OutKast, Vitamin C. There were a lot of prominent kind of late 90s, early 2000s pop icon people. It was wild thinking about it. It was crazy.
So how did that transpose, or at what point did that transpose into you working on country music?
So when I was about 13-ish, the boy band that I was in was kind of went through some stuff because I was the youngest member of the group. I was 9 turning 10 when I got signed to it. And there was 2 other members, Justin Guzman and Tim Brantley. They're brothers to me. I love them. Shout out Justin, Tim. But when they kind of started going through just normal growing pains, being a 19-year-old dude, 21-year-old guy, the band started to kind of fall apart a little bit. And so we decided to kind of all go our separate ways creatively. Tim went and did some amazing stuff in the indie rock scene in Atlanta. Justin went on to do a lot of film stuff in Los Angeles. And I pretty much was just like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. I guess I'll just be a kid for a minute. Like I was only 13-ish at the time when that started to happen, 13, 14 years old. That didn't really work for too long. I was in middle school for about 6 months, my 8th grade year. And I pretty much just had a heart to heart with my folks and was like, listen, anything I got to do to go and get back into music and pursue music again, I got to, because I just felt like I didn't have anything in common with my classmates. And so I was fortunate. Mark Wills had us open. He was a humongous country legend throughout the 90s, still is in my eyes. He had us open for him for a youth cancer summit there. I think it was in Charlotte, if I'm not, either Atlanta or Charlotte, I forget. But I had kept his contact, and my dad had kept his manager's contact. And so we just kind of went down that path of just kind of blindly going to Nashville. And we learned really quickly, that's not how it works in Nashville. You have to be present. You have to be consistent. You have to be a student. And so once I figured that out, I said, you know what? I'm not going to go to high school. I'm going to be homeschooled. And I'm going to make a deal that as long as I get straight A's or B's as a homeschool student, that once a week, I maybe could have my mom bring us up from Atlanta, 'cause it was about 3 hours, for me to kind of shoot my shot each week at different songwriter rounds or different showcasing events. And I would literally come up once a week, 2-3 days at a time. And I would start, because Music Row was much more simple back then than it is now. You could start on one block, and within a couple hours, you pretty much could walk every publishing house or record label, all of that by lunchtime if you started at breakfast. And so that's what I would do. I would just leave my showcase flyers and invites anywhere I could. Did that for like a solid 2 years, maybe almost 3, before I actually had anyone in the industry show up. It normally was always the people that would show up for the free food and drinks. They would never really have any contacts or any opportunity. And hey, I was grateful to have someone there to play to, honestly, at the end of the day. But it took a couple years to start seeing some people show up. And I eventually landed a booking contract with Buddy Lee Attractions. Thank God, that was kind of like just that light at the end of the tunnel during that time that I needed. But I was about 15, turning 16, landed a booking agency deal with Buddy Lee through Tony Conway, Donna Lee, Joan Sawtelle. Everyone over there in that group kind of rallied behind me because they had Saul for, a couple years. Every week I would litter their stuff with junk and they'd laugh. And, I started writing emails even to Joan Sawtelle, kind of appealing to her grandmotherly instinct, like, can we just, pray for a shot? But all worked out how it's supposed to at the end of the day. And I've been with them essentially since. Tony Conway took a liking early on and said, listen, dude, like, I've worked with the best of them. I've literally broke Garth Brooks. I've worked with Jason Aldean, you name it. He's he is a legend in this town. And so I took to heart when he said, this isn't going to be quick. This isn't going to be easy. And sometimes it's not going to be fun. But if you listen to me and you put in the work and you stay focused and you keep the faith, I think you'll have a shot at this. And I just didn't realize it would take almost 15 years to get my first shot. But my manager still to this day. I love that man. He's like a second father to me. And yeah, I'm just grateful to be here with music out on a podcast now with you.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's, I mean, that's interesting because, I mean, here you are, you're, like you said, 14, 15 years old, and you're beating the concrete and the asphalt on Music Row. And like you said, it's a totally different animal nowadays than what it used to be. I mean, you don't see, if anybody's walking up and down Music Row, they're A, tourists, or they're B, executives that just came back from lunch.
Yep. And the last thing they want is to be bothered.
Exactly. What were some of the influences that you were listening to when you were going through all of this?
I honestly pull from, I was one of those kind of dudes. I didn't really have a set identity of music that I would be influenced by. I could turn on a Michael Bolton record and then 1 second put on a Michael Jackson record and both be entertained by both. And then all of a sudden throw on an NSYNC record and a Garth Brooks record. Like, I just was in, if it moved me, that's all I cared about. That's it. I would even listen to some like Paula Abdul, straight up now tell me. If it moved me, I loved it. And that's kind of always been my thing. That was a big struggle for Tony when he was first pitching me several years ago for a record deal, because I did have a lot of R&B and pop influences. And of course, naturally coming from what could be considered, I think it's real easy to kind of just gloss over my early years and assume I'm just a pop artist. I was a Southern boy that my father has taught us the value of hard work and kept a solid foot in our ass as kids our whole life. And I love him and thank him for it. But if you were to listen to the music, you would think that I was just like some city dude with all these pop upbringings and stuff. And it's further from the truth. But pop is just where I happened to get my first start. And so, yeah, I mean, my influences, I draw from if the music's good. I don't really care what artist it is. If it moves you, then I'm paying attention, because that's the only kind of music I want to make is music that moves people, regardless of the genre. But lately, I can tell you who I'm digging lately, if you want to know. I'm loving Virgil Simpson. He's awesome. Like, I think that's a rarity to find in country music these days. I also, on the flip side, on the kind of hip hop side of things, I'm digging Russ, man. Russ is a dude whose story I respect immensely. That guy has millions and millions of online streamers every month, and he's completely independent, selling out arenas all over the world, from Dubai to Germany to here just in Nashville. So I really respect his hustle. So again, a broad spectrum.
Absolutely. I mean, and there's so much any more crossover between the pop world and country. You know, I say that, you know, country of itself is a genre, but then it has the subgenres below it, which can include pop country, country rock, you know, country rap, just all that stuff involved in it. So it's kind of evolved into a much bigger animal than what it, say, back in the 90s of what it was.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like back in the 90s or even 80s, 70s even, it was more of a niche. Like if you did country or country western, it was very much of a niche. But I'm really proud of how far, modern country's become, because it is so inclusive. It draws from everything now. You have country rap, like you said, and you've got country rock, and you've got country pop. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it took a minute, though, to evolve to this place. Because the music we're kind of making now, be it I wasn't working with Danny Rader, which is insane, kind of more on my own. But yeah, it was still very pop influenced. And that seemed to be a hill, 10, 12 years ago, that people just weren't really willing to get over just yet, which is fine. I think everything works out how it's supposed to.
Right. And the pop country's kind of, come full circle as of late. And I know some people, if you watch the CMAs Wednesday night, and a couple of comments that were made, about country sounding like country again, stuff like that. And that was the ideation that they had of country. I mean, nowadays it is different, and you've got such a wide demographic that listen to country now, from 18 to 80.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And talk about what a tribute. Loretta Lynn's tribute, that was amazing. Same thing with Alan Jackson's tribute. That was surreal to see. What's funny as well, Danny Rader, who's co-produced and co-written my whole album with me. He co-wrote, co-produced Back Road. He actually was the music director and producer of the CMA Awards. So he had a lot to do with choosing all the band members in the cast that did all the tribute stuff. It was amazing to see that kind of play out. I know it had, he was working so hard weeks leading up to it, months leading up to it, but to see it kind of unfold and it be such a success, and to see people be so enamored with, hey, country music's feeling a little country again. That's cool. That's really, really awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's a great thing. Now you write as well.
Yes.
Are you more of a solo writer or do you prefer co-writing?
Well, before I would say probably more of a solo writer, but there's levels to this when it becomes your profession. And if you're not able to seek help and figure out how to go to those who know more, who are just way more seasoned than you, then you're almost kind of robbing your art of what it could completely be, or the potential of it. And so it's been amazing to work with Danny, because sometimes it's different. Every song's different. Sometimes I'll have something that's kind of, the majority of the way jotted down, but I don't have an idea of melody, or I don't have, any clue to what the production's going to be. And then all of a sudden we'll sit down an afternoon. Danny's like, boom, boom, boom. And it's just like, whoa, we got an awesome sounding song. And, the other times we'll sit and, just whittle on it together, we'll kind of woodshed it and walk away 12 hours later, maybe a 6-pack of some Peronis. He's more of an IPA drinker. And then all of a sudden we'll have something that we're proud of. So it kind of works both ways. And I'm learning to do more of that. For years, though, as an independent artist, and, we don't really have like budgets or a label, backing you. It's hard to get in rooms with people that can bring something to the table. Not to say that there's not, people out there in the fringe, on the fray, that are super talented. But a lot of the times, it's just, it's hard. It's like a barrier to entry to get to some really good writers. And I've just been so thankful that lately we got a good thing going on. It's just Danny and I. And I'm very humbled and excited about it all.
So when do you find yourself most productive, or when does the most inspiration come for your writing? Like during the day? Is it in the morning, the afternoons, at night, early morning, in the bathroom?
Yeah. Yes. That first hour in the bathroom is definitely when you wake up. My father taught me, hey, protect that first hour. That's your time, son. No, lately I've been traveling so much. So I find I don't mean to or set out to, but I'll find when I'm looking out an airplane window or a bus window or a tour van window, and I start just thinking about, like, now that I'm a father and my kids are getting older, you want to make sure that what you're doing is making an impact in your life and theirs, and that it's not, one way, selfish in a sense. And so when I start thinking maybe a little homesick or guilty, I'm like, all right, well, let's not waste this emotion. Let's do something with it. Let's write a song, So if I'm missing my kids, I'll write a song about that. If I'm missing my wife, I'll write a song about that. If I'm feeling, uneasy of where I'm going, but I still am climbing that mountain, I'll write a song about that. Because that's really what they don't prepare you for as an up-and-coming artist, is that downtime. You have all these peaks and valleys. You got these promo events and these shows, and then you're just like by yourself with your thoughts, and you got, family that's not there potentially, and that's what they don't really prepare you for. So I was like, you know what, instead of getting caught up in that vicious cycle like some artists can, and maybe lean on things a little too much, I figured I'll just lean into writing more and just kind of releasing that way.
And along the lines of the writing, what is the one song that you have heard ever that you go, damn, why did I not write that song?
Whew. Oh, man. The Stevie Wonder song, looking back on when I was a little now. I just feel like that's such an honest song. And it's like instant dopamine. Those kinds of songs. I mean, of course, Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You. There's some definite go-tos. Pretty Young Thing, or Human Nature by Michael Jackson. Ugh, those songs. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I could geek out on that all day. But it's an array. That's a hard one. That's a hard one to nail down.
Do you feel that writing is because I've met some artists that don't write. Okay. They generally rely on other people. Do you feel like writing is an essential tool to have in your toolbox?
Yeah, I think I didn't. I'll be honest. The first, when I was just a kid, of course, I didn't write then. I didn't really have any life experience, and no one wants to hear an 11-year-old talking about how their heart's broken. So you kind of just have to trust the people around you that are helping you with that for the music. But what I started realizing was I would get around a little bit more mature artists, a little bit further on in the journey, and maybe they were co-writing their album or writing all their songs, and I noticed that I didn't like the way it made me feel. I would feel a little bit of resentment or jealousy. And I feel like when your heart's telling you something like that, you just got to survey it and you got to be like, okay, why is this? And it's because I wasn't writing authentic stuff. And I was just so in awe of artists that were doing that because it just felt good, bad, and different. Millions of fans, hundreds of fans, two fans. If you're writing stuff from the heart and it's conveying, there's just an honesty in that, that someone can't take away from you. And so I was like, I got to do that. I got to lean in and start learning and teaching myself. And early on, again, I'll go back to Tim Brantley, who was in Lucky with me. He was from day one kind of like the big brother I never really had. And he was one of those artists. He wrote everything. He pretty much wrote all the songs for Lucky. He went on and did his own thing, and he's an amazing songwriter and singer. And I would always just be in awe of that. And then eventually I had to talk with him. He was like, well, let me show you how to do this, little dude. And you just start. It's like a muscle. You start and, you're not so good right away. And you get all the bad songs out of the way because everyone's going to have them. And then you kind of do something long enough. You start kind of getting in a groove. It doesn't become so much happenstance. It kind of becomes a little bit more structured and you kind of know where to pull things or where to lay back. And yeah, I definitely think I strongly suggest, I would say, if you're an artist that feels like you're in this kind of torn duality of you got other people writing songs for you and you want to write songs, just try it. You might surprise yourself, find a little peace in that. And that's what music's supposed to do. It's not supposed to stress you out.
Oh, absolutely. So if you could tour with any two bands, who would it be?
Oh, wow. Currently, if I could tour with Kenny Chesney, hands down, that's. I went to a couple of his concerts this last year for the first time, and that was crazy to see that kind of engagement. But of the past, I would say solid tie for either Elvis or Michael Jackson. I just would want to see how it felt, because music, I feel like back then people were in it. When you were in the crowd and there wasn't all of this living through your phone, taking pictures. Like that's the thing when we were at these stadium shows. Danny's also Kenny Chesney's guitar player for all of his stadium shows. And so I was lucky enough to get the invite to come to some of Kenny's shows, and it still blew my mind. Of course, he's got his core, No Shoes Nation. They're all in the moment. They could give a shit less about all of that. Excuse my French. But
Right ahead.
solid 2/3 of the audience that paid really good money, and they're looking at it through a screen. And that blew my mind, because I was like, just put down the phone, sing, get into it, go have another beer, do whatever, get a Hawaiian shirt on from the merch, like get into it. But it's like everyone was just so doing that, and I don't know. I just feel like back in the day, it would be wild. I don't think we'll ever see that, honestly, again, in many ways. But that kind of engagement from the audience would have just be wild to sit there and be a part of.
Right. And I agree with you, because I mean, I've been to Kenny shows, I've been to Luke Combs, I've been to a lot of different shows, and it's so funny because, you see people from every walk of life and they do the same thing. They're all sitting there afraid they're going to miss something, and then they do miss it because
Yeah.
they're staring at it through their phone screen.
It's like you should have just watched it online, I guess. I don't know. I was guilty of it, though. I'm not going to lie. There was a few times where I caught myself, but I was taking videos of my girl. It was like their first real concert experience. So I don't know. Maybe that's just me being biased.
Right. Well, everywhere we go, I mean, my wife takes pictures. We don't do the video thing a whole lot, but she'll take pictures and stuff like that. So the pictures are not that bad. Although with Kenny, more Old Dominion, I think when we saw Kenny, it was more Old Dominion that I got video of than Kenny, other than like his stage set.
You were there for Kenny. When he came out, you were like, man, this is awesome.
Yeah.
You almost like forget time exists because you don't realize how many hits the guy has. That's what's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just nuts. Well, I tell you what, speaking of hits, you've just released one, and we're going to talk about the backstory on that song when we come back and play it. And we're going to give you a little special on that song tonight. So bear with us here, and we'll get that taken care of. And I think you guys will enjoy it. That'll be coming up here in just 30 seconds. So stick around.
b4Nashville is proudly sponsored by Go Tuners, the go-to tuner for professional and amateur musicians. Get your Go Tuner at gogotuners.com. By Heart to Heart Coffee, the coffee that gives back. Find out more at heart2heartcoffee.com. By Sibby's Apparel, worn by heroes, made with respect. Order yours at sibby'sapparel.com. And by Three Rangers Whiskey, not for the weak or faint-hearted. ThreeRangers.com.
Can they hear us?
All right, that was Chase Mitchell and Backroads, the name of the song. And I tell you what, man, I was. Let me turn you off there. I got you talking in the next video. But when I hadn't even realized that you had worked with boy bands until we started talking tonight. But there's a lot of influence in the song itself, just from the vocal standpoint. A lot of harmony in there. I don't know if you had people backing you up, if that was done by the magic of technology in Nashville or exactly what, but
stacking. That's good old, all right, take it 9 times and let's get it just the same and stack, 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 stack. And you might even hear a couple little backgrounds of Danny in there. He gave us some oohs and ahs as well to kind of balance.
It sounded great, man. I mean, it's got a good sound to it. I love the writing on the song. So give me the backstory, because it's talking about you finding love on the back road. Is that how it happened, or?
Well, so when we started off to write some of these songs, sometimes they start just without us even know what we're writing about. But this one was kind of more of a mission. We were like, all right, everyone's kind of going through this phase, because we did a lot of this music kind of right at the tail end of the pandemic and then right as everything was opening up. And the one thing we kind of kept thinking about was all these people would kind of leave these big cities, right, and go back home. You know, like everyone was kind of making these exodus out of whether it's California, New York, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was interesting. I thought there was kind of something to that. Like, what is it about tragedy or indifference or something that happens in our life that makes us want to seek refuge somewhere where you once felt really comfortable? And so as we kind of peeled that back and started kind of going more down that road, we realized that a lot of people fall in love for the first time. A lot of people lose love for their first time. And a lot of people wish that love would just come back, all in a very common place. And I think country music fans can relate, because a lot of the times it's just a back road or some riverbank and a bottle of wine. It's something more simple. It's not like some grandioso thing at like the Eiffel Tower or some New York City penthouse. It's something more relatable. And we wanted to capture that somehow in a love song. And we felt like we kind of did for this one.
I think you did a great job. Now, the young lady that's in the video, I'm going to take a stab because I did see a picture. I'm going to make sure I'm right here, but that was your wife, correct?
Yes, that's my wife, Jacqueline. And
all right.
She makes the whole video. It takes it. Everyone, when they see it, they're like, dude, I forgot you were even singing. I was like, okay, thank you.
That's not the purpose of the video. Is not to sit there and stare at my wife the whole time. Thank you very much.
I'm not used to it. She's absolutely gorgeous. She's everything, man.
I could kind of tell because there is a chemistry in the beginning, and then I got to looking at some pictures, and I noticed, I thought, yeah, that's his wife. I'd be dang, you know.
A few of those scenes, if we only had the unedited, you would see that she's constantly. I had a couple nose hair. I'm Italian as well, so kind of naturally a little dark haired. She's picking my nose hairs or my eyebrows and stuff, trying to get. Like, all right, sweetheart. I hope that they can do something with this.
That would have been great to put in there, though. I mean, that's intimacy right there when she picks your nose hair.
She don't mind it.
That is too funny. And the car.
Yeah.
Is that yours?
No, I wish. Big shout out to Dream Toy Garage in Nashville. They hooked up the car. I have now, crazy stories. I have had a couple of those. I've had a 64.5, which was like technically the first year that Mustang came out. It wasn't a fastback. It was just a regular coupe, cream white. And I did have a red one like that, but it was a replica. My father and I kind of pieced it together, kind of like that Johnny Cash song. We built it one part at a time. And yeah, but once I started having kids, my first kid came along, and my wife was pretty much like, well, you can either have that beautiful Mustang in the garage, or you can, we can have diapers for the next couple of years. So that was an easy decision. But the second that we got a chance to have one kind of cross my path again and be involved with the video, I was thrilled. So that was really cool. And I don't know if you saw, if you go back, one cool little Easter egg, if you look at the dash in front of Jacqueline in the passenger seat, that's actually Shelby's signature. He had
wow.
Like 50 of those or something like that, like his hand signature. And that was one of them. So that was pretty crazy. They didn't tell me that till after. And I was thinking to myself, I probably wouldn't have had her put her feet up for the camera. Like they were on like these different shots where she has her feet up. I was like, I wish I would have known that. I probably would have treated it a little more sacred.
Right. It's like, honey, don't put your feet up there. Yeah. But fine. Just don't. Oh, that was great. And then the other thing I got to ask, I see you wearing it on the hat. I saw it on the corner of the video. The logo.
Yeah. It's a little out there, huh? So
what is that?
It's kind of like my mascot, if you will. It basically is a representation. My daughter, Brooklyn, my oldest, my 9-year-old, she actually helped come up with it. And I don't know. I as a creative, I try to find more meaning in things that sometimes need to be. But when she had drawn that, when I was first starting to get back into music a few years ago, and she had drawn it with an X and a cross in the eyes. And her explanation to it was, Daddy, it's kind of like you know, you're a little good and you're a little bad. And I was like, okay, all right. And as I kind of just started peeling it back, I was like, you know what, this means something to me. It means something about purpose. It means something. It's just more that, I mean, a lot of artists like to run with logos that are their names or kind of make it. And I just figured, you know, I'm going to try something a little different. I'd rather have more of like a mascot that stands for something like chasing your dreams or your purpose, which is kind of like my slogan, chase your purpose, so that it could just be bigger than me. And so over the last year and a half, we've been able to kind of situate the online merch, a portion of the sales go to some local schools here in Nashville and in Florida when we were down there, to help buy instruments for kind of underfunded schools, to keep music, you know, as prevalent in the schools as we can. And we've now gifted, I want to say, almost half a dozen guitars in the last 13, 14 months. And yeah, all just from people buying the hats and us kind of just being like, all right, here, let's go get some instruments and donate them.
Wow, that is really awesome.
Thank you. We're really proud of it. That's probably something I'm equally excited about all the music and putting it out and getting to promote and tour and all that. But bringing this message of just purpose and in a world, I feel like, where everyone's really at their heart, they're searching for stuff like that. It makes me feel like it's more than the music. And sometimes it's easy to give up when it's just about one thing, such as the music. But when it's bigger, it makes it a little harder to give up on those hard days. So I'm just glad to be out here living my purpose and bringing that message to everyone.
Right. And I love that. That's one thing about country music that you don't see in other genres, is that kind of that philanthropic sense of, I want to give back. You know, I've got this opportunity. I had this avenue and I want to give back.
100%. And country music seems to be most prevalent when it comes to being inclusive of charities and all of the work they do in the veteran communities, or music for education. Yeah, I mean, I love and I hope to see it in more genres, but it's really awesome to kind of be in a genre where I feel like the opportunities are endless when it comes to that, because there's a lot of people here in Nashville even that are just that, trying to, you know, kind of create causes and become more inclusive when it comes to those things and helpful. And so I'm stoked if we can continue this.
That's amazing. I mean, I've worked with the charity for the last 3 years, a veteran charity, and I see that with what they do and with the it's a concert series, and with the artists that we bring in and the hearts that they have for veterans. Some of them may have family that served. Some of them may have even served. I mean, we've got artists that have served, and just to see them give back. I mean, I'm not a veteran, and I make no bones about it, because it wasn't for a lack of trying. It's just due to medical. I couldn't get in. And that was back in the mid 80s. You know, nowadays they'll pretty much let anybody in. You can have a federal record and you can get in nowadays. And back then, no, you couldn't have anything tainting your name at all. And that wasn't what kept me out, by the way. Let me say that. But I just love that that idea of giving back. You know, it's
Really the power of your gifts until you give them away. You know, it's until you share. I heard someone say one time to me, same thing about like money. They were like, you really don't understand the power of money until you're able to give it away. And I think that's the truth. You know, when you can surround yourself with a cause enough where you dedicate your time, your emotion, you know, your life to it, and then you give it back, it's just a different kind of fulfillment.
Right, absolutely. Now, I want to go back to the mascot for a second, because I can't get a clear shot of it, but I was curious, because at first it looked to me like it was maybe a sock monkey.
It's
an astronaut
holding balloons, which are basically planets, and he's going upward. He's onward and upward. You know, he's ascending to something greater.
Gotcha.
Like never-ending ascent. That's kind of our goal. You know, the climb never stops.
Mm-hmm. Well, I did think an astronaut, so I was on the right page. I just couldn't differentiate.
I can have it here too. I did the full commit. I got the tat, man.
Oh man, you are labeled up with that one.
I am committed. I am branded. I'm committed.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so awesome. So I have a little part of the show that I like to toss out there, and this is just like uh just whoops, didn't mean to do that.
Me with
Yeah, you with the buzz. I was like, I had to look twice. Go, wait a minute, is that the same guy? And then I got to listen. I'm going, yeah, it is. It is absolutely the same guy. But I have a little part that I like to do just to ask off the wall questions, and so let's get into that real quick, okay? All right.
What the hell? What the hell? The hell? The hell? What the hell? What the hell?
So I never encourage anyone to teach their child that, by the way. So unless you want to deal with the repercussions, and we probably don't want to do that. So let's talk a little bit about just off the wall stuff. I mean, you're a married man, and I'm a married man, and I understand that sometimes women have preferences.
right.
Okay. In your home, is it she prefers that you leave the seat down, or you prefer that she leave the seat or raises the seat when you're done?
Well, so we have a pit bull who thinks that her water bowl is the toilet bowl. So it's kind of a win-win. You know, it's hard to keep up with that kind of stuff as a man. You know, we're kind of one-track minded. But I have an excuse. My wife gets mad when I don't close the lid, because typically it means our dog Marley will just drink and drink and drink and then make an accident. And so it's kind of, I got out on that one.
Right, yeah. And we're wrong no matter what. What's that?
Are you an up or down household?
No, I'm a down household because my wife has pointed out the fact that she uses that bathroom as well. And we have a cat that loves to drink out of the faucet, and I'm sure given the opportunity, he would probably fall in the toilet trying to drink out of it. I'm sorry to stick with the bathroom theme here, but this is that age-old question that I still have yet to figure out. From what people have told me, I have my preference. Toilet paper over or under?
That is, I think under, because it makes for a solid rip. When it's on the other side facing like outward, it just, when you go for that rip, it just keeps spinning. You'll end up with a whole extra, and you're like, damn it, and you're sitting there rewinding it back, you know, and then it gets all wonky. And so I would say under for sure.
You know, I'm with you there, but that's not what I've been told. So there again. And then I've also heard if, you know, when you put it under, you have to be careful, because should you have critters in your home, they can climb up the toilet paper. But the thing is, you know, either way, it's going to spin and spin and spin.
Well, our lesson with our first kitten, Tuna, I was thinking this whole time that it was our youngest, Lyric, playing with the toilet paper over and over and over again, but it was Tuna. She was the culprit. She kept going at it until it was nothing but cardboard, and I'd be like, what in the world? It was happening almost like every 3 or 4 days, and then we caught her in the act.
And then you're sitting there thinking it's during COVID, and you're going, I can't get any more.
Man, this is like better than bread at the moment, technically. It's better than food right now.
Exactly.
I don't know what it was about COVID that made everyone want to wipe so much more, you know, or go. I guess it was because it was a whole shit situation. No way around it.
So what is the farthest you've ever driven for a concert?
Oh, well, I go to Texas often, but I have had a run one time where we went from Atlanta to Nashville up to Syracuse, New York, cut over to Des Moines, Iowa, and then back down to Nashville. And those were 2 shows over the course, or 3 shows over the course of 3 days. So like, it was crazy. We basically had to do like a 13 and a half leg in like 12 hours. We were moving. We were late to sound check, needless to say, but that was the most I think we've ever done. I think we clocked like 1,500, almost 2,000 miles in less than 3 days. That was a lot.
Wow.
Those were back when we just took any and every opportunity, you know? Like, can you play in Syracuse, New York basically Canada, and then the next day play in the middle of the Midwest. And yeah, sure, absolutely, sign me up. Let's go.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do, right?
Dude, yeah.
So when you're preparing for a show, now I'm going to leave some of these out because some of this is kind of geared to females. But when you're gearing up for the show, what takes you the longest to get ready? Is it tuning up? Is it getting your hair ready to go? Is it mental prep? Is it you got to have one or two extra fireballs? You know, what's going on?
I would say pre-show, nothing really takes me too long because I all I got to do is change my t-shirt. I'm normally a jeans, tennis shoes, hat, t-shirt kind of guy. So that whole side of thing normally works itself out pretty quickly. As long as I've got set lists, that's where it gets a little wonky. For some reason, those things grow legs between sound check and showtime. It's like everyone's got their set list and 2 copies, and then it's 10 minutes to curtain call, and nobody's got a set list. Probably the one thing that I keep extras in my backpack at all times. And my road manager, my best friend, Mark Macharski, he's real good about that. And yeah, I would say that's probably the only thing that ever gets the anxiety going, because last thing you want to do is get out there thinking you got your set, your show taped down, and everyone's like, all right, what's the next song? We knew the first one, you know. But yeah, I'm normally ready to go. I try to stay ready. My pappy taught me that early on. You know, opportunity doesn't wait on you. You know, you got to be ready for it when it knocks. So stay ready.
So what's your most embarrassing stage moment?
Oh, Lord, that's really easy. When I was 15, it was the first year that I was out on the road doing fairs and festivals throughout the Midwest for Buddy Lee Attractions when they had first signed me. And this was normally they X my hands because I was underage. They put gigantic markers. But we were playing a casino in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And they had this whole day planned for us. Basically, we were going to go have lunch, go bowl, and then come back in, get ready, and do the show. Well, at the bowling alley, they were some really friendly Midwesterners. They didn't give a crap that I was 15. They were giving me all these little beer tappers. They're called like tappers. They're like little mini beers, and you can get them for 50 cents. And, of course, I had like $5 in my pocket. So that's a lot of tappers. We get back to the hotel. My band, everyone, they're like, all right, dude, you got to take a shower. You are way too young. You're way too drunk right now. And so, of course, I do that. We're about 30 minutes out. My bass player, Chad Arnold's knocking on the door. I get up. I'm like, whoa, what's happened? And he's like, let's go. Throws me in the shower. We get downstairs just in time to hit song 1. And for whatever reason, we were opening with a 3 Doors Down song, Here Without You. I'm here without you, baby. I didn't get one sentence into the first hook, and I just I straight jumped off the front of the stage, went straight to the bathroom. I'm just glad it didn't come out. But I just went straight to the bathroom, got myself together, did what I had to do. And by the time that they just jammed. That's how good the group of dudes at the time. Hats off to them, because you would have never really known. You would have just thought I had to use the bathroom, essentially. But I came right back, and by hook 2, we were right on and finished the whole show. I think it was like a 2-hour set, like 2 different 1-hour cover sets. And we did it. We handled business. But that was my first kind of introductory to like, hey, man, show goes on, rock and roll. Like, you know, put water on your face, throw an Altoid in, get back up there and do your job. So, and I've also learned to not overdrink prior to a show. That's what you do afterwards, you know, handle your business first.
Right. Yeah. So if you could set up your own festival and you could pick 3 headliners to do this show, you got one on Friday, say it's a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You pick one headliner for each day. What 3 artists are you going to go with to headline your festival?
Well, got to go with Kenny Chesney. Of course, he's amazing. Everyone loves his songs. He's going to bring a big crowd, and it's just going to be good vibes. Second night, I'm probably going to say Justin Timberlake, because I think he just brings an element of musicianship and entertaining that just is lost these days and age. It's like there's just so much going on in one of his shows. And then last but not least, honestly, I'd probably say like, can it be 2? Can it be a dual headline?
Sure.
Willie Nelson and Dave Matthews. Boom. Old school Farm Aid. Like, straight up, like, maybe even a third. Let's bring Johnny Cougar out, man. Like, let's bring him out while we're doing this. I mean, if we're just being fictitious. I mean, I don't think you could go to a cooler 3-day festival if you were watching those guys perform.
Absolutely, man. That's a great lineup too. I really like that. So we've got your website up there, and people can find your music where?
You can go, all streaming platforms should have it at this point. I noticed early on you said something I'm glad you brought up. If it's all caps Chase, so CHASE, all caps on Spotify, as well as Apple Music, Pandora. What's easier is if you know a couple of the song titles, like say Back Road, or I got a song out called Slide, or if you just do a little research and you're trying to find the songs, it's best to type the song title plus my name. We're working on that, though. We're actually getting in touch with people there to actually change it, to make the massive change over to just Chase Mitchell. We think that'll be a much easier find. But for now, all caps Chase.
All right. Well, there you go. We'll keep in touch. We will keep checking things out, and you guys check Chase out. All right. It's just Chase on the streaming platforms until he gets everything squared away, or you can go to Chase Music or chasemitchell.com and find him right there. And we're looking for some more great music from you, man. I'm excited to hear more.
Thank you. Well, stay tuned. This starting in, I believe, late March, early April, we're going to be dropping a whole new single called Strawberry Daiquiris. So I can't wait for everyone. It's very Kenny, if you will, inspired, just that feel-good beach kind of nostalgic song. So stay tuned for Strawberry Daiquiris.
Awesome, man. Great deal. So you guys, I tell you what, keep follow him on all of his socials. That's the best way to keep up with him. And then keep your ears out. And if something comes up, we'll make sure to post it on our social media to let you know he's got new music out. So there you go. Chase, thanks for coming on tonight, man. It's been awesome. I appreciate it. And we will catch up with you soon, brother.
So much, George. Until next time, dude.
All right.
Much
Take
love.
care.